Hi, so this will be a demo for our first official project. And this project, the art strategy of this is truth to materials. Clay is geology. It's made out of decomposed granite. Granite is a feldspathic rock, as you recall, I hope. And so the truth to materials in this project is that we're going to take clay, decomposed rock, and we're going to turn it back into rock and landscape. Now the rocks can be realistic. They can turn into something else. They can turn into Mr. Potato Heads. They can turn into, whatever. But the conceit or the strategy is we're turning decomposed rock back into rock. And when it fires, that's what kind of happens. So the way we're going to make these is very simple. One of the first techniques ever devised by man, which is pinch. You grab clay out of the ground and you pitch it into a little vessel. The history of ceramics is largely of vessels, of containers. Anyway, so we'll be doing pinch. Now, although this is the very beginning technique that I will show you, it is not a novice technique. In other words, there are ceramists who have spent entire careers doing pinch work. So you can get really good and really advanced and really explore the technique of pinching. And it's a very beautiful, organic technique. I have a book, and I can't find it, by Paula Sparenson about, I think it's called Hands and Clay. No. You could look at Paula Sparenson. Anyway, it's a beautiful book with pictures of pinch pots that he's done his entire life. Very beautiful, artful book. Anyway, so again, all the techniques I show you this semester are techniques that you could explore for the rest of your life if you wanted to. So don't think of it as a beginning technique. Think of it as something that you could explore endlessly. So, but we're going to be kind of quick and dirty with this. Since we're not making vessels to eat out of, we're actually making sculptures here of rocks, which I have a bunch over there. I think I might go and take you over there what's in a second, but not yet. So let me just show you the technique of pinching. So I got clay out of the bag. I showed you wedging last time. I'm going to wedge this up a little bit. So it feels nice and workable and consistent, which it does now. Now I'll probably make one big rock out of this. So I'll split this in two. Use my wire. I could just tear it in half, doesn't matter. And I get it into a ball. So I just want to start with a ball, more or less. Close up your bag so it doesn't dry out. Always close up your bag. Okay, this clay is a little bit hard. Your clay will hopefully be a little bit softer coming out of the bag. So here's my thumb. I'm going to stick it about halfway through. Now again, I don't have to be too careful on this because I'm not going to be making a bowl to eat out of. So I can just be kind of crude and dirty. What I'm doing now is pinching. And I start from the bottom and go around. And then I start coming up to the middle. And I want to bring the clay up on the outside a little bit. I don't want to just go, if I go out with my thumb, it's going to go out like this. It's going to flange out like a pancake. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it contained. I want to go like that. I want it like this. So that means on the outside, I need to kind of push up a little bit, squeeze up. You can think of it as squeezing as well as pinching. Squeeze up, and then the inside hand just works against it, the thumb. So, but the outside hand really does a lot of the work. Now, since these are rocks and not vessels, we can leave them kind of thick. I'd say, ½ inch is good, because that will give you room to do stuff. We're going to do stuff to these rocks. More on that later. That's a different demo. So that's good enough. Okay, it's kind of crude. I can make it a little flat on the bottom so I have a nice place for joining. I'm going to make two coconuts and put them together to make my rock. So here's the other half. Stick my thumb halfway in. Start pinching up on the outside. Go around in a circle. Get to about the same thickness. It's good to have the same thickness because the clay shrinks. If it's thicker, it's going to shrink slower. If it's thinner, it's going to shrink quicker, which means you'll get some cracking if it's not kind of close to in the ballpark for the same thickness. Again, this is not rocket science, doesn't have to be exact, but you want to be in the ballpark. So those kind of match, right? Now, if you recall on the first project, there's two ways of joining clay. When it's wet, you can go ahead and just join wet clay and wet clay by working it together. Okay. I could even take a wood rib or a metal rib and work together that way. I like actually using my finger because I can really feel the clay moving together, right? And then I can go over it later and get rid of all the finger marks. But this could be part of my design also, maybe my rock. Maybe I want to leave these sort of like big, you know, almost like spackle, things like that. So that's one way of combining them. The other way, if you recall, is to score and slip. Probably safer and better, but again, wet clay and wet clay, you can join it. I'm going to score and slip, and you can see I'm really roughing it up. I go one direction, and then I go, I'm going to have to do the whole thing, I don't want to take up your time. And I go the another direction, and I can cross hatch like this. So I really rough it up, get some water on it. I would do it all the way around. I'll do it on this side also. I'm going kind of deep. I'm not going, I see a lot of this, where it's really far apart, that won't work. That's just lip service. You really, what you're doing is you're making it paste. So you got to rough it up. So there's a method to that, there's a reason for that. Okay. Get that wet. It makes it paste. You could even go over it again after you put water on to make it even pastier. But anyway, now I can join that. I'm just doing one part of that. Now I can join that together, work it together. It's going to be a little bit more slimy, so you're going to have to, you know, hands are going to get dirty, folks. Okay, then I can go through and make it like this. So basically what I'm going to have here when I get done, I'm calling them rocks, but really it's more like you got this potato, okay? So from here, now that it's closed up, the air inside actually acts like an armature, which an armature is anything that supports sculpture as you're working on it. Like a scaffolding is an armature, or I could stuff it full of newspaper or a balloon, and that'd be an armature. But it actually has air in there, so we'll keep its shape. So I can use that to my advantage. I can start shaping this now, so it's not just a potato. I can make it so it has an interesting way of sitting on the table, like instead of just, you know, flat like a pancake, it actually has some kind of like, you know, there's an interesting relationship to the ground. So think about that as you're shaping it. But you can shape this. You can make it really smooth, you know, get the surface the way you like it. You can use your thumbs to print in like a stamp. We're going to be talking about surface design later, but really I want to talk about pinching and then shaping. You can make it like a geometric crystal. A lot of crystals are shaped like this. They have a, I'm doing it with a piece of wood. Now again, the air inside is going to help it keep its shape, so you're pretty safe. It won't collapse. The clay is pretty thick. Now, as this clay dries out a little bit, as it gets more leather hard or cheese hard, you can go over this, and these areas will become more, these lines will become more and more clean, which is kind of cool. So there's a certain kind of shaping you do when it's wet, and then you can refine the shaping when it gets leather hard if you want. So anyway, that's another way of shaping a rock, okay? So that's a kind of a normal rock. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to make 3 of these small rocks. They're pretty quick, okay? Then if you want to make one big one, that would be cool. I'm going to show you how to make a big one. A big rock, pinching a big piece of clay is very similar to pinching a small piece of clay, except you use different parts of your body to make up for the size. So wedge this thing up. I got some wet clay and some drier clay, so I really need to wedge this guy up. These tables are high. Better to get a little bit lower so you have some more leverage. I hope you all have good places to work at home that you can see the table's gonna get messy, and we'll talk about that in class. There we go. Getting good. Hear it snap? Oh, some air getting out of there. So I'm going to get this into a ball, and this will be half of my rock. I'll only make half of this, but I'm going to show you how to pinch a bigger object. So this one, for all of you who like spanking and hitting things, this is a fun technique. Okay, so instead of using my thumb going in and pinching, I'm going to use my fist and make a hole with my fist. You see better that way? My lovely wife is my filmmaker, thank you. Okay, now that I've got that started, a big hole, I'll put this on here, and now I can start, instead of pinching down, pinching like this, I can start spanking down. Going from top to bottom. And I move my fist around too. I just turn it, just like I'm working on a wheel. I could even use a piece of wood. I'm going like this. Okay, that's pretty good. It's a little bit thick over here. I suppose I could clean this out a little bit more. Alrighty. So anyway, that could be half my rock. I do another half, stick it together, stick the two coconut halves together to make the big potato, and then again I can shape it. So, if you could bring the camera around this way, Sue, just follow me. I'm going to show you some rocks that I've done as demos. These have been finished and glazed. But here's one that was beat like a crystal. Again, these have been fired and has nice color on them. This one I put little pieces of, or little bits of slip in there, and I use my thumb to go in. But again, these are just two halves put together. You can see the shaping of the rocks. This one has really fine texture in here. So they can all have different kinds of shapes. I made this is a bigger one that I made with that, using my fist. This big rock is hollow. I used a different technique to make that. But anyway, so we're going to make different kinds of rocks and do different kinds of surface design. So anyway, that's the technique. So again, the assignment is to make 3 sort of normal sized rocks, pinching 2 halves together, joining them, shaping them, and then make 1 larger rock. I forgot to mention, as you're working in rocks, as you're working on all of your projects actually, you'll be spending probably more than 1 session on them. Clay will dry out really quickly, so you need to keep your stuff wrapped up. So when you're done with your 3 rocks, or your 4, the 3 small ones and 1 large one, you'll want to wrap them up in plastic and well, like 2, 3 layers, 4 layers. Keep them wrapped up until you work on them again. Otherwise, they'll get unworkable. Once they get hard, it's really hard to recondition the clay. So make sure you wrap them up. Also, the very last thing you do when you're done with your rocks, and you can either do this now or you can do it, we're going to decorate these. That's the next demo, but don't worry about it for now. But the last thing you do before you're done with your rock is while the clay is still not too hard, is you want to, whatever you consider the bottom, is you want to poke a hole that goes all the way through the wall to the center. This allows, even just that little pinhole, allows all the air to get out so that the clay won't explode. Because again, clay shrinks, air doesn't. So the air needs to be able to get out. So wherever the armpit of your sculpture is, or I can make a thing that's as big as this room, and all I need is 1 little pinhole for that air to get out. So those 2 things, wrap your rocks up so they don't get too hard, and also put a hole in the bottom once you're done kind of working on it. Because remember, the air helps keep its shape for a little while. When you're done shaping, you know, put a hole in there. And I would keep these wrapped up until we'd actually, either you send me a picture of it or you do a critique, because it stays stronger. If the clay stays a little bit wetter, it stays stronger. Once it gets bone dry, it gets extremely brittle. Okay? Thank you.